Welcome everyone back to our Web3 Native podcast. I'm your host Shikai, and today we're so glad to be joined by Sowmay from Instadapp. Sowmay, nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so as I think many of you may already know, partly also from the announcements from Instadapp and partly from our own Asia DeFi Network, very happy to be supporting Instadapp as part of the pioneer cohort at Asia DeFi Network. And part of the major milestones is of course the recent governance launch along with the INST tokenomics that have launched. So we're going to be diving deep into many of these aspects, and along the way we'll also talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing around community building in Asia as part of the Asia DeFi Network. Sounds good?
Awesome.
All right, let's get started. So for the benefit of viewers, because I'm sure a lot of people are already familiar with Instadapp, but for those who are not yet, shall we do a quick intro on what is Instadapp and the founders, the team behind it?
Yes, so we are trying to build a middleware DeFi smart layer, which aggregates protocols, users, and the front-end developers on a single platform. So we are seeing a problem with more adoption coming to DeFi space. We are seeing a problem that the space is getting more fragmented. Now we have multiple protocols doing same stuff. We have multiple chains, mainnet, layer 2, then side chains, and all these things. So our vision is to build that standardized platform, which can abstract all the complexities from all these different fragmented layers and provide a very good interfaces to protocol developers to plug into the system and to front-end developers. And once those things are sorted out, users eventually benefits automatically.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So it's blossomed into this vision. Was it always this kind of vision and journey when we started Instadapp? Was it always kind of thinking about building a smart layer, or what was the journey like?
Yeah, it happens over time. When we started, it was more like we want to solve this small problem. People are having problem with taking a MakerDAO loan. They have to make 12 different transactions. Why not just group them? Such kind of things is what get us started. Then we see a problem that their interest rates are different on Maker and Compound, and the DAI interest rates are different. Why not build a refinancing bridge? So these are small things that kept us going, and now we are at a point where we think this needs to be scaled. There are so many. DeFi space is still immature. Things doesn't get reach to equilibrium very quickly. So we need some layer which can help efficient flow of capital and things, and that's how we come up with this whole DeFi smart layer concept, which we also term as an Instadapp protocol, our recent launch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we see kind of a recurring theme, especially for aggregation layer, right? Mm-hmm. To basically start off being very focused on solving immediate problems, and they don't have to be huge problems, just kind of, but even if they're small problems, and then as we kind of collect more of it, then it becomes a collection of tools. Yes. And it becomes and then we can go into become a layer itself, right? As Internet Protocol and DSL has become.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is this kind of how you imagine the whole aggregation layer to be evolving, right? Or how do you see the middleware or aggregation layer of DeFi evolving? Is everyone going to be like Instadapp, or maybe the DSL is going to be the kind of hub for all DeFi applications?
Yeah, at the end, users are going to use aggregation platform, because even if I ask you are using some aggregator for booking your flights or booking your hotels or anything. You're using an aggregation service than directly booking from the airline sites, right? So it's quite true. Aggregation is, aggregation layer are going to be used by end users. But the issue that we are seeing with our existing aggregation is more they are aggregating things on an interface level. So now there are so many friction. You have interface aggregation. Users have to teach themselves with what protocols to use, what network to switch, and all these things are still there. And a lot of things are not even possible when you aggregate on a front end level. I mean, just an interface level, because you can't refinance your loan. I mean, because protocol doesn't fundamentally support this, so you can't support it on the front end. So that's where we took a step forward on Instadapp and build our own smart contract aggregation layer. So it's not just an interface level aggregation. We are aggregating things on a single. Every user have their own single smart accounts on Instadapp, and that smart contract is the point of contact for all the DeFi interaction, for all the cross-protocol transactions, and all the locked value that is coming to Instadapp. So so far we're seeing that many users are finding the utilities that we provide quite good. That also should I mean that also reflects in our TVL. And I think it's our bet. This is going to be the way that things are going to pan out in future. So let's see how it turns out. The macros still we can't predict.
Certainly. I think this has been reflected as well in the TVL, right? I think as at this time of recording, I just checked that we are around 5.8 billion in TVL, which is insane for a middleware, right? This is kind of like comparable to almost like a primitive. So it seems that the aggregation layer as one of the core pieces of infrastructure is playing out. And like you said, it is really the value add that we're adding, that's not just kind of being the interface to interact with these DeFi protocols. It's the value add of, for example, refinancing. Right? I see some of the most popular strategies that I've also tried out, like maximum up the leverage or deleveraging, or like swapping the collateral, or even swapping the debt. And it's actually so easy and with even lower slippage compared to doing it natively, for example, on Aave, right? So I think because of this, the almost like the flash loans volume on Instadapp is surprisingly one of the most active
Yes.
in all of DeFi, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of volumes are going through Instadapp, and it's all free. So yeah, that's one of the good parts.
Yes. Well, I think all free is just kind of a temporary thing because I think as now we're scaling up, right, and we're preparing a protocol. At some point, we may be thinking of some sort of revenue. I think especially with the token and the community being formed around it. Is that kind of the horizon? Are we thinking of a longer term model? How do we see this playing out?
Okay, so for us, our focus is not around generating revenue. I mean, that needs to be done eventually, but our focus is not around that. So this is the metrics that we actually follow at Instadapp. How much money or how much economic value does the users are gaining by using Instadapp protocol? So that's what we are focusing on, and I think this revenue part or fees part should come eventually through the community via discussions coming on the forum. So as a team, we don't want to be we don't want to decide like what should be charged, how much needs to be charged. All we need to do is like build a good service or build a good platform where a lot of financial value is flowing. And even if a governance token have governance rights for a platform which have like billions in dollars, it's automatically valued already, even if there is no a revenue at current point. So if you see traditional startups, Amazon was like in loss for 20 years. So I truly believe eventually the goal is to like build an economic value for token holders, for users, and for everyone. But as of now, it's not on our focus. And even eventually, we want community to come forward and come up with ideas how we can implement the fees. So yeah, long way to go.
Certainly, I think this is a recurring theme that we hear from everyone. Like where like even with even say millions of users or with like billions in TVL, the focus is still very much on community and delivering value to people who are users or participants in the ecosystem and protocol. And all the business model part can be figured out later, and I'm sure it's going to be something crypto native. But let's actually talk about that. So I think building the community, the big milestone that was recent was the governance launch and the INST token launch. So congratulations on that. Would you like to just walk us through the approach or like the rationale of how we came up with this whole distribution and governance mechanism?
Yeah. In Instadapp DSA version 1, I mean, we had this smart contract versioning underlying accounts that each users have on Instadapp. On version 1, it was a very minimalistic model where we have some logics that we deploy and users are managing their funds and the logics that we determine. But the problem we face there is we need to ask for each and every. I mean, first we can't upgrade the accounts. So without upgradability and with DeFi space evolving in a most dynamic way, we can't build a frictionless service that we want to. And for even for the users, it's not that frictionless. They have to provide allowance and they need to do multi-step things. So what we solved, the primary thing that we solved with governance is introducing the upgradability in the accounts. So now with the base logics, we can add infinite functionalities to these accounts. For example, flash loan modules, authority modules, manager modules, guardian modules, and just I mean I'm just thinking once it become a bit mature and this thing came out to the community, how people will come up with their own suggestions on how the functionality can be added. So it's now we have like infinite possibilities to add like functionalities to the system. So this was the major change, which we can't give to multi-sig or a team wallet because it would be a very high central point of failure. Second benefit that we saw is the regulatory standpoint. As the locked value is increasing, it's good. We have some on-chain distributed governance, which is managing the whole system. So this was the two things that led us to like come up with our own governance system.
Super awesome and super exciting as well. I think one of the things that we were discussing about the limitations of aggregation layer is that it still comes back to the core team to decide, like which protocols to integrate and also what are the strategies that you can execute on top of it, right? So it sounds like basically with the governance or decentralization, we're crowdsourcing a lot more ideas and development resource to be building those integrations. What are some kind of early ideas or like early initiatives that have already been started in this direction?
On the account implementation side, or
yeah, both. Well, account implementation, new strategies based on these modules.
yeah, so we will our team will suggest a new implementation which includes DeFi, which we are terming as automated DeFi limit orders. So now many users have like DAI and USDC positions where they have DAI USDC collateral and DAI borrowings just to like farm comp or Aave or all these tokens which are available in DeFi for yield farming. So with this DeFi limit orders, you can use these positions to create an AMM. So till now, how AMM was working is like you have tokens, now you submit to a pool, but now you can convert your lending pools into an AMM. So once you create an order, your DAI will be consistently, I mean, swapped to USDC, which I mean your collateral DAI will be consistently swapped to collateral USDC, collateral DAI dapped into USDC dapp. So such kind of system can help you earn fees by being an AMM of your lending pools, and also earning yield farming, interest, and all these things in the lending protocol. So this is one of the implementation we are internally tossing up, and I think this week or next week early we are going to put it on the forum for the community to like discuss it more, and then it can go on a governance platform. So yeah, upcoming is this, and then we have lots of ideas around flash loan where each wallet will turn into a flash loan provider. Just think it like in normal terms, each MetaMask account just imagine how it will look like if each MetaMask account turn into a flash loan provider. So instead of accounts can turn into that kind of things with this account extension ability. So yeah, there are lots of ideas, and our forum is the best way to stay updated with that.
Wow, amazing. It almost seems like as long as you have a smart account on Instadapp, any of the assets in the smart account can then be used at the back end for like flash loans, being AMM for different collateral. Yeah, without you needing to kind of like consciously rebalancing or like swapping
and it's like your smart account is getting smarter over time with more and more account implementations being added to it. So just your funds are lying idle in this wallet, you are being benefited by just that, like keeping the assets here. That's it. So I think this is a very good value add for end users.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. This is totally kind of like a new innovation compared to just like wallets where yeah, it's you still need to kind of like manually add it in. So that's amazing. It makes me also wonder, right? Like all these innovations are happening for like the integration side and or on the strategy side. What about in terms of like the application or the interface side? I know previously you mentioned that interface only aggregation is not good enough, but at the same time, it could be beneficial to open up to many different kind of wallet providers or front ends to be offering DeFi smart accounts, DSA, DSLs, integration to Instadapp, right? So are we looking to that direction as well, or what's the progress?
Yeah, so first step is to make this underlying layer very robust and strong. So I will not say that immediate focus is around front-end developers, but we will keep everything built up. Like we have our own SDK, we have our own developer channels, and all the things that is required for front-end developers to integrate this layer. But before that, what we need to make is the foundation is very strong. So it comes with two things. First, the code base that being added to the upgradability that is being added to the system should go through a very good, rigorous, very good process, because even a single bug and now it's extended to all the accounts. So it's like a very big problem that can happen. So we need to make sure that process is good. Second, we need to make sure that governance is very strong, because having a good community who is reviewing things around it and having a distributed ownership is something that will also bring trust to this layer. So once these two things are strong, I think front-end developers, I don't think we need to actively do some stuff, but this layer have so much utilities that they will automatically find the whole thing beneficial to like integrate. So that will happen eventually, and if that's happened, end users will continue to come and contribute to this layer. So yeah, let's see how it's pan out.
Yeah, yeah. So in kind of like a marketplace model, this would be equivalent of working on the supply side, where like in the Uber kind of thing, you make sure there are enough drivers such that users anytime you can find a ride and so on. So they will just come to the app, right? Or like people will build the front ends for it. In fact, I think we already saw that Zapper has integrated Instadapp's DSAs very quickly, and so I'm also tracking my accounts there. It's so easy to see everything from different wallets. Awesome. So I think you touched on one of the key points that we really want to dive deeper in today, which is making sure that, well, of course, security is good, but importantly is the governance, making that it's resilient, and that is accomplished through a well-distributed token and voting power. So shall we talk about then how the INST token was distributed, and how you decided to target lenders and based on the net worth, the kind of like diminishing quadratic curve and all these rationales and mechanisms that you thought of to find the right people and give them the right amount of voting power?
Yeah, so there are two factors that we checked through. First, we need to create a wide distribution chart. So if we just took Instadapp, so we have like, at that time we had like, I think 25,000-30,000 contract accounts, and out of which probably 10,000 or 15,000, between somewhere that had interacted with any DeFi protocols. So the distribution chart was quite small. So we came up with an idea like where we can have a very wide distribution chart where, we can distribute, overall community can benefit from this thing. So we included Maker, Compound, and Aave, all the users who are actually managing their position in current, at some block snapshot. Everyone was rewarded with tokens, and if they are an Instadapp users, their rewards were doubled. So if you are Instadapp users, you can claim twice the one which are externally coming into Instadapp. So to make sure that Instadapp users are well rewarded, and even others are also well rewarded for just coming to Instadapp and use this platform. And then it led us to another problem. So DeFi is very dominated with whale users. Most of the volumes are being contributed by top 10 to 20 accounts. And if we create this distribution chart, these users are getting most of the tokens, and not the smaller users. So this is what formed our rationale that we should create a chart in a way where more the locked TV net worth you have, diminishing will be your INST rewards. I mean, it will increase, but increase in a diminishing manner. So yeah, so diminishing increments. And yeah, that's what formed a lot of things. I mean, there are a lot of rooms for improvements, but it's very hard to create such rules because space is so dynamic. Now we have Polygon users, now we have mainnet users. On Polygon, we can't do I mean Uniswap liquidity mining that we have on mainnet. So those users are asking how we should benefit from that, and so there are lots of different group of users that have different kind of requirements. But we try to go for one where we can target the most user base, and we did had a very good. I think around a million Ethereum was added to the Instadapp protocol through this whole distribution plan. But yeah. Yeah, and we are actively thinking what could be the best way to get these tokens on the right hands. I mean, the right genuine believers, and yeah, it's a more like a continuous work. Well, so yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah, there's something to really keep in mind that it's a continuous process, right? And what I really hear from you is that the inspiration to distribute it as widely as possible, and also to kind of curb the power of whales, make sure that normal DeFi users actually get a good share of that, and using this timing to also onboard a lot more users and assets onto Instadapp. Like, it seemed to me that it hit like a few birds with one stone. Of course, there was still some noise around people who, maybe they just used it for some transactions but didn't really use lending, and therefore the kind of the net value was not as much. So it almost seems that there's a primary focus on lending-based protocols for Instadapp, right? Because even that was used to target for the token distribution. Will that continue to be the focus area, or are we going to also try to expand to other products such as like liquidity providing and so on, or
Yeah.
maybe this can be the next airdrop? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so what we are, so we need to stick to our own circle of competence where we can properly build use cases which are very which adds value to the ecosystem. So for us, we found lending protocol are much better, and since the start, we are more into this lending protocols, which includes Maker, Compound, Aave, and we are in near future we are also exploring Liquidity and then Reflexer. So we can innovate on that front, but on AMM side, we're finding it hard to like build some use cases which are not already solved. So that's why lending was always our focus. It may change in future how things turns out. Maybe we are having community contribution on AMM side as well, and account extensions for such pools and things. So let's see how it happens. But as of now, our circle of competence is around lending pool. But whenever we get chance, we also try to integrate other MM. So we are the with Gelato Uniswap wrapper, we built the first ever ERC20 token wrappers for Uniswap version 3 NFTs that unique pools, right? Limit order. So yeah, we also try to innovate on that side, but only if we can innovate, but not just like adding something on interface and making some generic solution.
Definitely. To me, it sounds like even the kind of actively managed Gelato liquidity provision, Instadapp, I think, is definitely the first project to do it, right? I think like out of all the projects, this is the first like token distribution that is on Uniswap version 3, and also the first one that is actively managed. So kind of like already forging a couple of steps ahead. So it sounds like there's already some innovation in this aspect. Will we continue to see more of these maybe actively managed liquidity positions for other assets on Instadapp as well? It sounds like it may be.
Yeah, we are exploring some ideas around stablecoin pools. So, and that's what we think Uniswap version 3 ERC20 wrapper can be most used for. For other tokens, we figured like there is a tricky part here. If your price is being derived from Uniswap pools, then it's hard to have what I say, actively manage it actively, because in order to manage it actively, you need some price points from some exchanges from outside Uniswap. Then you can say we need to revolve around this price. But when it's happening just from Uniswap, so initially we had some problem with INST where INST was below the or I mean not in the price range. So in order to make it into the price range, now we need some one of the liquidity, either ETH or either INST. And yeah, who will add that liquidity? So we need some price point in order to make it happen. But with stable coins, the system can work very well because we already know the price point, $1, or some deviations from there, like maximum 5%. So it's possible to do it with stable coins, but with other uh, tokens, it becomes a bit tricky. So yeah, it's a very good learning curve, and we are trying to we are refining it in a way like where we can make a very good foundation for on this front.
So moving on to the next approach, right? So we talked about people getting the tokens and then providing liquidity. Of course, the other way that they can use it is to in government forum for proposing, and we also have some sort of delegation, and we also have the first governance proposal already passed. Of course, those were like mainly, I think, core team in Wales. How do you see the participation in governance evolving from here, and what kind of early signs do you see of governance developing on Instadapp?
I think I'm a true believer of progressive decentralization. I mean, decentralizing everything from day one, it can. You're actually saying this system is perfect now. Now we don't need much pivots. Now things can go based on proper reviewing, going through discussions, and so that approach does create trust, but it limits your pivoting powers. So you cannot pivot that much that in a way like you usually do with you have like you can quickly execute on ideas, right? So so we believe till now Instadapp was tokenless project and it was very minimalistic, and we are able to ship things faster. Our second move should be somewhere where we are distributing token in a progressive manner. So not even like distributing so much that it becomes hard to like make changes or innovate on the systems, or not even like not distributing at all. Like we don't have any plans around like so. So it needs to be more progressive. Like slowly you're taking steps in which in some timeline it will progressively become distributed to different stakeholders who believe in this system. So we do have a very good initial base of investors, which involves a lot of, which also involves many DeFi native, leaders. So I think we will be able to like we will be able to like add more stakeholders, which could eventually benefit the whole system. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as you said, it's always a journey towards decentralization. And the first step, as we can see most of the time, is to, of course, get the community just being aware and involved in some of the discussions, right? When we launched the INST token, LongHash Ventures here, as part of the Asia DeFi Network, we set up the WeChat group for Instadapp, and immediately within a day or so, 200 plus people signed up as a starting point. It's incredibly exciting.
Awesome, that's great.
Yeah.
And you should and Longhash should also create a governance profile on INST.
Yes, for sure. We'll definitely be looking to participate. So I think just on this point, right, on the kind of like community building approach, we're talking about this progressive decentralization. Sounds like the first step, what you mentioned, is working with the investors who are kind of like DeFi native leaders, and then kind of like through the leaders also engage the community and letting the local communities build up. How do you see this approach working out? Are there kind of like some differences, between geographies, Asia, Western, or like different kind of engagement modes that you plan to work with, like with investors versus kind of like more general public, or is it more like just open conversation with everyone?
Yeah, for now it's more like like an open conversation, and we believe like we need to delegate a lot of things that we are internally managing as a team. So maybe if someone like I'm just taking some outcomes here, but things should move forward even without team involving in things. That's what we are targeting. I mean, team will still be involved in making fundamental or core changes to the protocols, because we are the people who actually understand the whole system. But around distributing things, or all the known core things, which are also important but not core to the protocol, it's good if we have I mean, evangelists who are actually managing things or leading things on their own between different communities, and because it's a very big world. I mean, it's a very global system. I mean, anyone from anywhere can, I mean, contribute or check in, or provide liquidity, or can do anything. So it's kind of hard for us. I mean, we are limited by uh, people, and even we're limited by on many fronts to do the distribution or that level. So it's more like creating a base or system where people can themselves find it comfortable to like contribute and to lead and do stuff. So that system is all we need to focus on for now. But whenever we get chance, we try to like support that kind of initiatives, or wherever possible. So yeah, not something off our mind, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's always a journey, and some of the early signs that we see, at least from other protocols, right? I think we've seen a lot of the community grants being set up with some subcommittees or sub DAOs. We see some like attempts at treasury diversification to then further distribute the token holdings with other protocols, or other DAOs even. I'll presume all of these are, in the pipeline, or what are some of the ideas, like more concrete initiatives that we can expect in the coming months that will distribute more power to the community,
To what?
to the community and token holders. Yeah.
Yes, so far we kickstarted this distribution process with a liquidity mining program. One of the key focus that we're thinking, I mean, something we are still ideating, but I think can be very beneficial for the system, is incentivizing people on voting or participating in the governance proposals.
Mm.
So if you are a passive holder of INST, you will lose the tokens, because tokens are being distributed to people who are actively participating in the governance. So this will drive a good amount of participation from all the passive holders, because if they are not, their supply is being diluted. So that's one thing that we are actively thinking around, how we can build this, and build this proper structure, because it's directly related to your participation, and that's what we need instead of just dropping the tokens. Second, we are actively thinking where we can have where we can have more and more protocol integration and have INST distribution to them. So we started with 3 protocols, but our goal is to build a DeFi-wide yield farming program where all the protocols listed on this platform are all the users are being rewarded for using all the protocols which are being added. So these are the two focus points for us for the distribution for now. Apart from that, we are also building a good list of, I mean, trying to find some consensus between people who understand the system, and if they want to be delegates and be a leader for, or for leading efforts at uh, providing proposals, governance proposals, and shaping the future of the protocol. So that's also one of the areas that we are actively thinking around.
Yeah, the idea of incentivizing participation is an interesting one.
Hmm.
And I think surprisingly, in the current landscape, we don't see that many people kind of like rewarding with native tokens for voting, right? Sometimes we see some examples of if you vote, then that makes you eligible for some other things, such as some revenue share. But I think part of the reason that it is not incentivized right now is that it may have some alternative behavior, such as like you incentivize people to just simply vote without looking through what is the best proposal, or maybe they will I just need to delegate, so I might as well just delegate to someone I know that's the safest, maybe to you, Sowmay.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we kind of balance having the incentives versus like having the real activity of like studying the proposals and participating and delegating?
Yeah, I think it depends. So either you are delegating or either you are voting yourself. So in order to vote yourself, you need to be very active with all the proposals and things are happening. And you need to be DeFi native technically, because if you are voting, there is no like custodian service that allows you to do that. So this frictions kind of help, and I mean separating out the genuine people with just who want to just vote. So that's one thing. And in order to delegate, so if you delegate someone, they are that's also another way to go forward. You're delegating your tokens, and the delegates will receive the voting rewards now. But delegates can come up with their own system. Like I will distribute like 90% to the initial token holders, and 10% I will keep fees for myself for being actively participating into the system. So yeah, that's the two things. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to start on a full scale mode on the day one. Just some prototype or a testing thing to start with, some couple of votes and see how things go. So if it goes better, then it could be expanded to more top level things. Or if not, then yeah, just no need to continue.
Yeah, always the agile approach and always refining based on what works, right? I think one of the newer ideas that have
Yep.
come up is this UMA KPI token where you can tie the rewards to the distribution to whether or not we reach certain goals. It could be in TVL, could be in activity, and that could be tied to some governance votes as well. Who knows? Yeah, lots of experiments going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think to kind of like tie it all up, as with many of these aggregation, or like you said, the whole spirit of being agile, there still needs to be an overarching kind of mission or direction to unite the community towards, right? Some sort of like guiding principles or leadership or spiritual kind of like direction, so that everybody knows what to prioritize over time. So now that we are starting to decentralize into a community base, how would you kind of describe the community that Instadapp is trying to curate or incentivize? What are the few words that you use to describe the community and the spirit of it?
Um, yeah, so basically, so if you see what technically drives the whole DeFi development, um, we are seeing that capital is not that actively available to all the underserved areas that needs to have that capital. So in our example, we can't imagine that we are building a traditional banking system at the age of like 21 and 23 that we are right now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen technically. So with doing this DeFi, I mean, with making this DeFi ecosystem more stronger and robust, we are actually building a platform where the whole globally everyone can get equal access to the capital, build the same thing that everyone can build around the globe, and provide that kind of value to the whole system as a collective effort. So we want capital to be like water flowing freely everywhere, like with no restrictions, which we see in the traditional finance there are. So that would be a very top level goals that you want to do. So and anything we do should be I mean in future on, I mean somewhere it will be aligned to this only. So yeah.
The idea of freer capital flows and more like inclusive participation in finance around the globe. Certainly a noble and grand vision. Any other kind of adjectives that you would use to describe the Instadapp community or your ideal Instadapp community?
Yeah, I mean, we are covering the whole DeFi space. So yeah, that's something like capital should be efficiently flow in every location, in every part, and every system without any restrictions. That's how innovation is also going to drive. So yeah.
Yes, indeed. I think a very aligned vision. And lastly, I think to wrap it all up, now that with the vision of Instadapp, what about the overall vision of DeFi itself, right? Like, speaking of capital flows, where do you think is the next opportunity of inefficiency to address, or what are you most excited about in DeFi today?
Yeah, I think so. Right now, all the user base that DeFi have are very native. I mean, they're going through a very good learning curve. initially. Afterwards, they find it much better. Like I found using MetaMask much easier than traditional banks. So, but still, it's a learning curve, and we can't expect everyone to go through that same curve. So I think the next good step for DeFi is going to bridge that complexity that users are having, that the mass users are having from interacting with this DeFi ecosystems, and we are seeing a lot of solutions coming on that front. We have like a whole layer of a whole new system of L2s, side chains, and independent chains, which are much faster and easier for use to end users. And then we have all these different authority modules which allow very fine-grained like access to the accounts, like guardians, managers, and all these things. So I think this is where DeFi should move in direction, and it's what moving, and it's surely moving in that same direction where we can where we can abstract all the complexities that are getting harder for end users to interact with DeFi. So yeah, it will be exciting to see how whole thing unfolds in next few years.
Yeah, that would really kind of unlock the mainstream participation. I also heard some ideas being thrown around in the kind of the opposite way, which is saying that it's not to abstract away the DeFi native parts of managing keys and signing transactions, because I mean that is in the spirit of crypto and Web3, such that like because you are in control, you are responsible to kind of like verify, see the contract, see the interactions. And do you see this moving to this mainstream and extracting away, somewhat diluting the robustness or like the spirit of Web3?
Yeah, I will say two things here. First, even the middleware, I mean even the systems which are integrating with this whole DeFi space or blockchain are the users of this. So if Coinbase is using DeFi, Coinbase is the users. So that's what it means. Like we are not abstracting that thing. Like you still need to go through the same process. And Coinbase might have many user base which are finding Coinbase easier to use and trustworthy than directly interacting with DeFi, because they might lost the keys and they lost the whole wealth. So so consider all these entities or these things more like a users of the system than like a middleman. So that will change the perspective a bit. And second, maybe not advanced, but a user which understand it a little bit. I mean, on a small level, to some extent, they can have some authority levels where they give like they have withdrawal limits, or they just give certain limits to certain entities or some address, or so basically adding logics where you are not giving the full access of your wealth, but just adding more restrictions on that thing. So this too could be a very good way to move forward. But yeah, I mean, things will get more decentralized, distributed as we go forward. Maybe we will have Apple having the integrating whole this private public keys inside the iOS system, and I'm not sure. I mean, anything can happen. So once that happens, things will move very slowly. So yeah, right now all we are doing is like fixing things on what is available. But once things are integrated on a hardware level, software level with every device that we have, then things will move very smoothly without us building any services around it.
Just kind of like slowly building the infrastructure and the integrations, and then it might happen really quickly, the exponential adoption. It's a really interesting viewpoint of like looking at these applications or at the customer endpoint level as users, and having that level of flexibility for end users to also decide how much authority to give away, right? Because I think the comparison with Web2 is that we never had a choice, but how much control to give away. Like it's always 100% giving away. But
Exactly.
with more Web3 applications, you can choose to interact with it directly, and even if you interact with Web2 applications, you can, if they allow you to, customize some of the permissions. And this kind of like wide array of options is the freedom that we're trying to strive for in Web3. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Sowmay, for joining us. I think we're almost at the end. Is there anything else you'd like to share to fellow builders, people who want to join the Instadapp community? what's the message you'd like to share?
Yeah, I only have one thing that I normally say to everyone is to like so a completely new ecosystem is building around DAOs. So instead of going after joining companies or joining some different things, everyone should join a DAO in some way or to some extent based on how much energy you have to give up. And maybe it comes up with just discussion on proposals, or maybe it comes up with adding commits to the GitHub and coming up with the proposals, or it or maybe it comes with being the delegate of any protocol. So uh, this is a very new what I say a new whole ecosystem building up around where a lot of opportunity is there. So everyone should consider joining a DAO,
Mm.
which was not an option before. You can't join Microsoft just by connecting to an internet. So
Mm.
yeah, that's a very good. So yeah, that's it. So just join it out.
How would you recommend for somebody new to get started to join a DAO? How should one
Yeah,
find one and decide? Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean there are many many steps to follow. First, one need to be curious about learning new things. Once you do that, you can find your interest, and it should be somewhere around finance, or if it's around arts, you can join. There are so many DAOs around arts or NFTs. So there are a lot of development going on. Find your interest, and a good way to start is just understand the community, how they are communicating, where they are communicating, and go and provide your suggestions. Slowly understand the whole things, like how things are working out, and then you can come up with your own suggestions on shaping of the protocol, which involves code changes to the protocol, creating proposals, committing to the protocol GitHub, and eventually you can also come up with as a delegatee where you are seen as a role model for this protocol. So yeah, it's more like a long process and slowly
Mm.
stepping up with small contributions that you are doing to the protocol. It's helping protocols to shape the future. It's also helping you to be a part of some good revolution or a good journey. So yeah, everyone should join it out.
Any particular shout outs to particular communities or platforms?
Yeah, I mean, we're loving how whole thing in DeFi is innovating. So every day we are able to see something new, and we are like amazed how is it possible. Like we haven't seen AMM in traditional finance. This mostly like order book based system. Now we have whole this AMM market working much better than the order book systems, and then we are seeing a lot of lending protocols. So yeah, top three Maker Compound and Aave is already a pioneer in this world. But we're also seeing Liquidity, which have a very minimalist design and trying to do the same thing that MakerDAO tried to do, but with just ETH and LUSD. That's a good one to see. And we also like Reflexor Finance, how they build the automated stable coin, which is not backed to dollar, and it's just revolving around $3, I think. So that's also a good project to keep track on. And B protocol, that's also we are actively chatting with the team and seeing how things are moving up. So yeah, a lot of protocol, a lot of things are coming up, and it's getting harder to catch up with all these innovations happening. So we're just keeping restricted to also where we can do the best.
Awesome. Like you said, stick to our circle of competence and while still letting our curiosity run free, right?
Yeah,
I'm super excited. Yeah, I think the idea of working for DAOs or like contributing to DAOs is like this is the ultimate kind of freelancing dream of like our generation.
yeah,
Like you don't need to sign up to certain platforms and enslave yourself to their platform fees, whatever. Just come and contribute and you know write proposals, and you might get you might land some grants. You might even land like a full time position at one of these DAOs, right? It's so
yeah.
open.
Recently,
That
Compound had a streaming grant from the internal from the protocol itself to one of the contributor who did the whole chain link integration. So that was one of the best way, like how you're. It's not grants, but you are. I mean, it's kind of a grants, but it's streamed over time. So it's more not like a one-off thing. So
hmm. Yeah, yeah. DeFi and Web3, not just about decentralizing the finance itself, but also how to organize people and humans and incentivize people around, governance and participation. I think this is really kind of like the spearheading of the entire movement
yeah,
of our generation.
exactly.
All right. Well, I think on that note, let's wrap up. Would you like to just share quickly where people can follow yourself or find out more about Instadapp?
Yeah, if you want to stay updated with our progress, you can follow us on Twitter, which is just Instadapp, INSTADAPP. And if you want to communicate with the community, please join our Discord channel. You can find all the links on our website. And yeah, rest, we are also very active. You can reach out to any team member and have discussion and brainstorm and anything. So we are all up for it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Sowmay.
Yeah.
And to everyone, hope you enjoyed the session. See you next time.
Thank you.